there is slight, very slight, I don't know if it's agronomically significant, but there is a statistical significance of the increase in dollar spot resulting from the increase in potassium in May. So when you applied 1 pound of potassium, you see 1.4 on the rating scale of dollar spot. When you applied 4 pounds, it goes up to 1.8. So we can argue whether that's agronomically significant. But there is clearly an association, clearly a significant, influence from applying more potassium, and you're increasing the dollar spot. Now we're gonna go over papers from Wisconsin. We're gonna go over papers from New York when we get to potassium, and those are going to show. Oh, no, was it Wisconsin? Yeah, I think it was Wisconsin. When those are going to show a much stronger relationship between applying excess potassium and resulting in disease outbreak. So whenever you've heard me say, I wouldn't apply anything unless I have a good reason, that comes from years and years of experience in reading papers where I'm aware that there are associations between applying things and a benefit, but I'm also so aware of applying things and having a disadvantage, and you don't know about it. You're unaware that applying potassium would result in disease incidence increases. Okay, this is one of the early papers that showed a little bit of a tendency. Now here we show no increase in June, no association in June and August. We don't see an increase, but we do see a, I don't like this word, but a tendency or a trend in the numbers to move up. There's no statistical association here or relation or significance, but there was in May. So this is one reason of many, many reasons why I do not recommend applying potassium unless you have a good reason, meaning there's a visual potassium deficiency and or there's a strong conviction that the soil test is, indicating there's probably a deficiency in potassium. And when you do have a deficiency in potassium, you don't need to apply a lot. There are numerous papers that we'll go over that show potassium deficiencies can easily be alleviated by just applying a little bit of potassium. Applying more isn't going to help. And this happened years ago where there was this, I don't know who it came from, but there's this concept of luxury consumption of potassium. Oh, you can still apply potassium. You apply a lot of potassium because it's going to luxury consume it. It's going to take up more than it needs, and it's going to be used later. I don't care. Show me how that's a benefit. I'll accept that can occur. I'm not going to refute that or argue that. Luxury consumption can occur. So what? So what? Who cares? Luxury consumption can occur on almost every element. Show me how hyperinflating the potassium pool in the soil and then in the plant is going to benefit me by benefiting the turf or increasing it beyond, some acceptable limit or whatever. Then that's convincing evidence. Because what I'm seeing in the literature over many decades is that excess of applications of potassium increases the risk of disease occurrence. Okay, so keep this in mind as we move into potassium whenever we get to it in a month or two. Okay, we're going to come back to this paper. Potassium significantly influenced shoot density, figure 3, and color, figure 4. So you might read that and go, well, yeah, Travis, you've been saying potassium doesn't do much. You shouldn't really apply that much potassium, right? You could read that if you just read that sentence. And you go, well, here's a paper that shows potassium, you should apply potassium, right? So hold your horses, especially in 1983, 1994, but to a much lesser degree than did nitrogen. So potassium significantly influenced shoot density and color. Okay. This is an example of you have to contextualize everything. You can't just pull a sentence out. And somebody pulls that sentence out and puts it on a marketing sheet to sell potassium. Technically, they're correct because that's what was in the paper. But it's the same as if you only read the Bible verse, money is the root of all evil, you'd go, well, of course the Bible says that. Money is the root of all evil. It does say that. But if you read the preceding 3 or 4 words, it says the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, so those are completely 2 different context. I mean, it's completely different. Money is not the root of all evil, according to the Bible. It's the love of the money. It's the same thing here. If you read this and you go, potassium significantly influences shoot density and color. Well, yeah, potassium influences shoot density and color. That's correct. That's what it says. So let's go look at it. Better density and color were observed at the lowest annual potassium rate of 1 pound. So let's look at potassium. Now, unfortunately, they did not have a 0. They did not have a non-treated control here. It is what it is. But let's look and see what happened with potassium. When you apply 1 pound of potassium, you see the turf density was already a 7. But it goes from 7, this was, we're looking at a graph, line graph, same as the other ones where we have months, okay, and turf densities on the y-axis, months, and 1983, 84, and 85 are on the x-axis. And as the summer continues, you see the quality go up, the density go up throughout the summer. We don't have a non-treated control. So I don't know where the line would be if you didn't do any potassium, okay? Well, I do know where the line is if you apply more than 1 pound, and the line goes down. And you see it's significant. It's significant in May, June, August, and September. When you see an NS over here and these other ones, that means that the difference was not significant. So when you apply 1 pound of N, you get whatever response. Again, I don't know if that would be different than applying nothing. I don't know. But if you apply 2 pounds or you apply 4 pounds, what I can say in this study in Georgia in 1983 and 1984 on a home lawn on Bermuda grass, the density went down when you applied more potassium. Okay, so this is not, something to look over. More potassium does not automatically equal better turf. Okay. In most cases, there's much more evidence to support the opposite. More potassium is going to result in less quality turf. In this case, it's certainly the case for lower density turf. Okay, so unfortunately, it didn't have a non-treated control because I suspect the non-treated control would have been somewhere around this line, but I don't know. I can't say that. I'm just speculating. But if you're out there applying, 2 pounds of nitrogen or let's say you're applying 1 pound of nitrogen, well, let's say you're applying 2 pounds of nitrogen, or you're applying equal rates of N to K, and you're applying 2 or 3 pounds of nitrogen per year, or you're applying, well, let's see, what did they do? This is per year. Let's go back and look at the materials and methods. Make sure I'm not consistent. So potassium, yeah, 1 pound, 2 pounds, or 4 pounds per year. So if you go out and you apply 1 pound of nitrogen with 1 pound of K in May, and you go and you apply 1 pound of nitrogen with 1 pound of K in July, and you end up applying 4 pounds of K for the year on Bermuda grass lawns in Georgia, what this is saying is you're going to result likely, at least under the conditions of this study, you're going to likely result in reduced quality, reduced density than if you just applied 1 pound of K. So if you want to know how to save money as a lawn care operator or a sport turf or golf course manager, here is again more evidence to not apply these very high rates of potassium. It's not resulting in any concomitant benefit to you. All right. And this is going to be a very consistent result in the literature. I'll show it as long as you want to. I'll sit and talk about potassium for years. Thatch is another issue. But for potassium or nitrogen, I'll talk about this till I'm blue in the face. Stop applying so much potassium. You probably don't need much at all. And applying more is not only probably not going to help, in some cases, it's actually going to cause more problems. let's look what happened with the color. And you'll see the same situation where the color, now we're looking at the next figure, turf color from 2 to 10, minimum is 7, right? And you see 1 pound of potassium per year resulting in acceptable turfgrass quality, turfgrass color. And these, 2 pounds and 4 pounds of potassium are not helping. In this case, it's actually reducing again the color. It's resulting in a reduction in color, these higher rates of potassium. Okay? So this is a thatch theme paper. We're going to get to that we already actually got that briefly, but I wanted to go over this because it has so much good information on potassium in here as well. You got to apply potassium. You got to apply 13, 13, 13. My grandfather applied 13, 13, 13, I think, every year of his life on his lawn. I don't even know how many pounds of phosphorus potassium he wasted because he wanted to go out there that 13, 13, 13. That's antiquated thinking, and it is in many, many cases inconsistent with the body of evidence. Okay, of course you're going to see a good response. Yes, the nitrogen's there. You're going to see a good turf response. That's not what's in question. What's in question is, do you really need the phosphorus and potassium? Probably not. I can't say that unless I know more information about your situation. But you probably don't need near that much potassium. There's more likely a chance that you could need some of the phosphorus. But the potassium is grossly oversold and overapplied. I've said this before on many occasions. I have never personally seen a turfgrass response to applied potassium in my career, ever. I know it exists. Here's a negative response right here. I went over the N&K paper from Snyder. He showed a positive response. We're going to show some other papers that show a positive response. But I've never actually personally seen it, despite my best efforts to induce a potassium deficiency and then see a response. I've never seen it. So doesn't mean you won't, but consider that if you're looking to fine-tune your fertility program when you're moving into purchasing for the next season. If you have any amount of potassium in your blend, ask yourself, why is that in there?